This is WBSM On Demand.
I'm Attorney Dane.
Men without shame. Men without shame. Men without shame. Men without shame. Flowers just won't work. We're all going to serve. Rip them up like weeds. All over town, running up down, feeling the nasty.
Well, Trump says he's the protector of the U.S. economy now. And the tariffs, there's been some debate, but it's funny. The Brookings Institute is the same place where the Clinton campaign convinced the FBI to go along with the ruse of Russian collusion. They got the information from one of their own, what was his name, Igor Danchenko, worked underneath Strobe Talbot at the Brookings Institute. Strobe Talbot was believed to be Hillary Clinton's choice for Secretary of State had she gotten elected in 2016. So all the Trump dirt came from Clintonites, basically. But Brookings Institute studied the whole tariffs thing with Trump, and they said that the Trump imposed 2018-19 tariffs achieved a pretty significant goal. And one of the examples was the tariffs that were put on imported washing machines probably created 1,800 new U.S. jobs at Whirlpool and other manufacturers, according to the centrist think tank. But that ignores the broader impact of the Trump's first-term tariffs on U.S. manufacturing, with the Federal Reserve finding that U.S. manufacturers ended up facing higher costs for raw materials they imported, as well as from retaliatory tariffs from other nations. The number of U.S. manufacturing jobs fell slightly during Trump's first term, from about 12.4 million to 12.2 million workers, although a range of factors could have accounted for that decline, including the COVID shutdown. I mean, it's funny how people don't like to bring that up. That's a pretty good caveat as far as what happened to the economy. But the Brookings results suggest that the tariffs may not have boosted manufacturing, employment, or output, even as they increased producer prices. Trump, though, contends that the broad-based tariffs also convinced some manufacturers to open plants in the U.S. as a way to avoid the import duties. The higher the tariff, the more likely it is the company will come to the U.S. and build a factory here, so it doesn't have to pay the tariff. Although such a shift is possible, Micklethwaite and said such changes, this is from the Bloomberg, Micklethwaite, some of you may be familiar with them. He said such changes would take years. And Trump disputed that, saying companies would come right away. Experts note that many factors beyond tariffs affect where companies decide to operate, including supply chains, taxes, shipping costs, and labor and regulatory policies. Already, some businesses are anticipating the impact of tariffs by shifting their manufacturing locations, but that may not be guaranteed to benefit the U.S. For instance, shoemaker Steve Madden said if Trump places new tariffs on Chinese imports, it will shift manufacturing away from China and towards nations such as Cambodia and Vietnam. Well, that's interesting. Then it would sort of bypass the tariff by moving it out. You could do that. You may see that. From CBS News, I just read a lot of this stuff. I don't normally prefer to read CBS News here, but this was a rather impartial, fair article by Amy Peachy, who has been pretty fair over the years by comparison to her colleagues over there. Trump also sees the threat of new tariffs as a way to curb illegal immigration and drug smuggling. citing people pouring through Mexico and Canada, bringing crime and drugs at levels never seen before. The tariffs would remain until the time as drugs, in particular fentanyl and all illegal aliens, stop in the invasion of the country. Much of the fentanyl within the U.S. is smuggled from Mexico. During President Biden's term, border seizures of the drug rose sharply. The U.S. officials tallying about 21,900 pounds. That's about 12,247 kilos of fentanyl. That's enough to kill every man, woman, and child here. Seized in the 2024 government budget year versus 2,545 pounds, or 1.15 kilograms. 1,000 kilograms, excuse me. While it's possible that Canada, Mexico, and China could increase enforcement against drug smuggling or immigration to avoid Trump's tariffs, it's unclear whether such a threat alone would achieve those goals. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum Tuesday suggested Mexico would also retaliate with tariffs. I told you that part. The flow of drugs into the U.S. is a problem of public health and consumption in your country's society, she said. It's true. It doesn't mean you can't help stem the flow of it, though. But the demand is here. She's not wrong. Quick break. We're coming right back. You're listening to The Chris McCarthy Show. Would love to hear from you. 508-996-0500. Right after this. All right, we're back. It was brought to my attention. You may have caught this. There's been an increased concern about these drones over U.S. air bases in England, and they're just being described as not likely hobbyists' drones. So I think they're under the impression these are coming maybe from the direction of Moscow. A little reconnaissance on our assets in England. Unidentified drones spotted over the UK for just about a week, so they were probably there a little longer. Fox News' Jennifer Griffin reports that 4 U.S. military bases in the UK that house the American F-15 Strike Eagle and F-35 fighter jets have been targeted by swarms of small drones since Wednesday, November 20th, that they're aware of. Military officials said they're alarmed at what appears to be a coordinated effort to test security at RAF Lakenheath, Mildenhall, and Feltwell in eastern England, as well as the Fairford down in southwest England. 4 bases where our craft are kept. And, it's been a week and they haven't been able to capture one of these. That's concerning. We're a little behind on what to do about drones because drones may become the next commonality for armies, instead of tanks, because tanks are very vulnerable. Tanks have to go into hiding now because of drones. They're sitting ducks. It's already an antiquated weapon. Without improvements, it's just now not what it used to be, what it used to mean on the battlefield. You have to sneak tanks in and hide them in the bushes today. But a senior U.S. official told Fox News that the drones do not appear those of hobbyists. Witnesses say they're small quadcopters and octocopters, more sophisticated than those that can be bought off the shelf. The Pentagon Press Secretary Major General Pat Ryder said earlier on yesterday that none of these drone incursions have impacted the base residents, the facilities, or U.S. assets on the bases. We, of course, always maintain the right to defend ourselves if we deem something to be a threat. I don't know. I would just capture one. I don't know why that's not a priority. I've always been worried about terrorists using drones at, like big football stadiums, things like that, because if they bring in enough of them, you can't knock them all down. I hope they have some sort of signal blocker where they become useless and may drop to the ground, that kind of thing. I mean, whether it's a WMD or some sort of dangerous chemical, they could do a lot of damage. I hope we're being proactive about it. I don't hear enough about it to make me feel comfortable. $508-996-0500. It's going to start raining tomorrow. Well, at least your travel day is not that bad. Coming back to the area, welcome. You are listening to the Chris McCarthy Show with Ken Pittman. On for the day. A very comfortable day out there right now, and I hope you're able to enjoy your family and friends. And I hope you're a good cook if you are hosting. I never thought I'd be this guy, but the favorite thing in my table is my in-laws, my wife and in-laws, they make this, I can't believe I'm going to say it, my favorite broccoli casserole. It's unbelievable, but it's simple. But I'm a carnivore, man. That's turkey and the gravy is really what my favorite thing is. But I got to say, this is not bad.
Me when you hold my hand, tell me that you're my loving man. Kiss me and squeeze me tight. Tell me, baby, I wanna love all night. I get low, chills and fever. Chills and fever, chills and fever, chills and fever is what you give to me. When it's late at night and when you hold me tight, tell me that you love me so. Never, ever, ever let me go. I get lowered, chills and fever, oh, chills and fever, oh, chills and fever is what you give to me. I get lowered, chills and fever, oh, chills and fever, oh, chills and fever is what you give to me.
That's Samantha Fish, by the way. Great guitar player. Obviously a blues player. You can catch her from time to time over at the Narrows in Fall River. Great player. I don't know why she didn't make it nationally. She's one of these just under the radar national. I can see her songs in movies and commercials and things like that, but just outside of that top 40 push. 508-996-0500. Kamala Harris returned from Hawaii, and Bob Hoge writes that we were reminded instantly why we dodged a bullet. Returned from a $7 million house she stayed at during her Hawaiian vacation, and now she's rested up, set for the camera to deliver a pointless word salad that doesn't really say anything meaningful. Either the lighting was bad or she didn't actually get all that much rest because she looked strained and fatigued. Her tone was somber, even as she was presumably trying to deliver an uplifting message. Can't be fun getting roundly trounced in an election. I'll give her that, he says. But still, since it's been 3 weeks since the vote, you'd think someone on her staff could have crafted a better message than the mindless dribble that she did. Her delivery was not concise, shall we say, and it seemed like she kept repeating, "Don't ever let anybody take your power from you." Ironic. Let's hear it. I kind of want to hear this.
I have to remind you, don't you ever let anybody take your power from you. You have the same power that you did before November 5th. And you have the same purpose that you did. And you have the same ability to engage and inspire. So don't ever let anybody or any circumstance take your power from you.
Okay. All right. Coming from her, that's kind of amusing, but she sounded inebriated to me. And Bob Kraft does too, and he says he doesn't drink, so maybe it's just the way some people talk. I don't know. She didn't look well rested. And, she took the election's losses very, very hard. I mean, she couldn't even come out and say thank you to all the people that worked hard for her the night of. She had to come out the next day. Never thanked President Biden. There's a deep rift in the Democratic Party. There's a lot of infighting going on, a lot of finger pointing. But the way the whole thing went down when they just How do you switch horses in July of an election year? They attempted it. They made it close. I guess it was a lot closer than I thought it should have been. I always underestimate the anybody but Trump vote, but it was powerful because this was the worst, weakest candidate nominee for president I've ever seen in my adult lifetime. Since I've been paying attention, this was the craziest choice. I mean, you think about it, she got 0.4% of the primary vote in New Hampshire, and then she got bumped from the Democratic primary in 2016. I'm sorry, 2020. With one statement from Tulsi Gabbard pointing out her prosecutorial record in California. And Biden went and got her anyway as the VP. They tried to hide her. They tried to give her a couple of important things to do. She blew that early on. So then they hit her for most of it. And before the convention, when they could have voted for whoever they wanted to go with, Biden endorsed her and threw a wrench in all of that. So they said, the heck with it, we'll just go with her, whether they wanted to or not. And the rest is history. But now you got all this finger pointing. Nancy Pelosi's pointing here, Barack Obama's pointing here, Joe Biden's pointing there. And they all had a part in this. George Clooney should be thanked. He initiated the mess. 2 weeks after raising $30 million for Joe Biden, saying how great he is, was then, I believe, was told to write an editorial for the New York Times to print, suggesting we got to get rid of this guy. So the aesthetics of the Democratic effort was terrible from the beginning. They blew $1.5 billion. They were paying celebrities to endorse her. That's not inspiring. That's embarrassing. She paid Oprah for the interview, the softball interview. She paid Al Sharpton. The campaign donated to Al Sharpton's organization $500,000 before the interview on MSNBC. There's something I would think illegal about that. If not, it reeks of ethics problems. For Al to accept it and then give her the interview he did. And she never answered because she hid from the public. And of course, the Democrats that I go back and forth with, and some of them I love. My friends, I have liberal friends. It never stops me from loving them. They're great people, just don't see things like I do. But they were telling me they weren't hiding her. Of course they were hiding her. It's insulting to say otherwise, but I guess your shoulders must be sore because you carried a lot of water for her. It's over. The Karen Reed trial is coming up in January. Prosecutors brought in a new prosecutor, an outsider, and the Karen Reed team added a New York-based attorney. Of course, it was a very inconclusive, anticlimactic end to the last round. Biggest result of that was Detective Proctor was fired from the state police. And his superior was suspended. And the community remains almost evenly divided on whether she did it or not. But round 2 coming up in January. And she has to be the most famous face, I think, in Massachusetts, maybe beyond, for 2024. 508-996-0500. You're on the air.
Hi, good morning, Ken.
Morning.
I don't know if you've heard anything or any of your audience has heard anything regarding the mayor of Boston, Miss Wu. I've heard rumors that the job is getting to her, and she's had, I don't want to exaggerate, but some panic attacks resulting in visits to emergency rooms in the Boston area to deal with her emotional issues. And secondly, there was another rumor floating that a member of the Kraft family, I think Jonathan, has been looking at the position and considering running for mayor. I don't know if you've heard that or any of your audience members have heard the same stories.
Is he a resident in Seaport? Is he a I think he has a place in Seaport. Is he a resident there officially?
I don't know of the particulars. The only thing is that I've heard his name's been thrown around in Boston area, for a run for mayor. And the details, I really don't know. It's I think it's just speculation right now, or just
there's a lot of
rumors.
Of anti-Semitic problems within the Boston community and the Democratic Party. I don't know that Jonathan Kraft would be able to run without some problems there. But I am aware of Mayor Wu's anxiety problems. That's been going on since the beginning of her term. She has, she's a real radically left liberal, so the fact that she's emotionally unstable doesn't shock me. But I don't want to make fun of her because it's not fun for people with anxiety attacks. I mean, it's a real thing. I don't wish that on anybody. But she's been dealing with this quite a while.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Also, and I understand she is with child, which probably complicates her own personal health to a certain degree. And with the anxiety attacks, if they become more frequent or have been frequent, does that interfere with her ability to govern, to be in charge of a city of the size of Boston?
Can she take medicines without harming the child? I'm not a doctor. I would think some of these things would be a concern. And she's had, I think, this is now her second child as mayor of Boston.
She had her first child while being mayor?
I think she's already had. She's already carried and come to term with one, and now this will be her second, and this will be a third child altogether, I believe.
Wow, I didn't hear that before. I didn't know the mayoral position is such a fertile position.
Well, I could go in a number of areas here. I'm not going to, especially in
absolutely. Don't go there. All right. Well, thank you for your time.
Happy Thanksgiving. Thanks.
And to you. Bye.
You bet. All right. So we'll come back on the other side of the news break, and you are supposed to be listening to Chris McCarthy, and he'll be returning. I'm just pinch hitting for the morning, and we'll return. We'd love to hear from you, 508-996-0500. You are listening to me, Ken Pittman. I'm normally heard from 9 to noon here on WBSM on Saturdays. So if you haven't heard, I'd like you to listen in and maybe call in if you wish to. And